This is FYI News 13, brought to you by SSPTV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker.
For your information, there's more good news coming out of downtown Hazleton. Find out about the latest renovation project next. Why, hello there, and thank you for stopping by. I'm Ken Kara. If you have the HD package from Service Electric Cablevision, make sure you're watching on channel 513 for the optimal viewing experience. Now, headlines from FYI and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. A former camp counselor is facing charges in connection with an incident that happened at the camp 6 years ago. According to Butler Township Police, 24-year-old Zachary Lee of Hazel Township had unlawful contact with a minor. Police say they received a child line report in December of 2015 involving suspected child abuse. Investigators learned that the incident took place in 2010 at the Hazleton Enlarged Ministry United Methodist Church camp. Lee, who was 18 at the time, was a camp counselor. Police say that Lee admitted to police that he did have sexual contact with an 11-year-old minor at the camp. Lee was charged with 1 felony count of unlawful contact with a minor, 1 felony count of corruption of minors, unlawful restraints, and indecent assault with a person less than 16 years of age. He was arraigned before District Magistrate Daniel O'Donnell. Bail was set at $25,000 unsecured. Lee was ordered not to have any contact with the victim or the family. He was also ordered not to have any contact with minors. Some tense moments this morning in Hazel Township. This was the scene around 10 this morning as crews responded to a call for a car versus a pole. Hazel Township Fire Chief Scott Custician tells FYI that the car struck the pole and caught fire. He says that a Good Samaritan stopped and pulled a woman from the car. That woman was 29-year-old Crystal Fort of Weatherly. She was flown by medevac to Lehigh Valley Hospital in Allentown. APTS and the McAdoo Fire Company ambulances also responded. Blood tests will be conducted to see if there will be DUI charges. Route 309 was closed in both directions from Grand Street in McAdoo to Route 424 until around 1:30 this afternoon. PPL and Service Electric Cable were also on scene to replace the pole and clean up downed power lines. Power was shut off during that process. State police say that a fire that damaged more than a dozen homes in Shenandoah yesterday was arson. Firefighters responded to a vacant structure on East Center Street yesterday around 10:40 a.m. Flames quickly spread to other structures. State police say that 13 homes suffered major damage, while Julian's Car Wash on East Center Street sustained minor heat damage. A state police fire marshal determined that the fire originated in the rear of 9 North Union Street and that the cause is incendiary in nature. Anyone with information is asked to call State Police at Schuylkill Haven at 570-739-1330 or the Shenandoah Police Department at 570-462-1991. Another building in downtown Hazleton is getting a facelift. A $500,000 state gaming grant will be used for renovations to the former Hazleton National Bank building at the corner of Broad and Laurel Streets. Krista Schneider is the executive director of the Downtown Hazleton Alliance for Progress.
Well, this has been a couple years in the works. The DHD received a grant a few years ago to help out with the renovations that they're planning for the building. So these renovations will involve all the exterior work, so it'll be masonry restoration, new windows, and exterior weatherproofing.
So another building that's going to be looking great in the downtown.
Yeah, I mean the HNB looks pretty good. Its bones are pretty good. The architecture is dates to the 1920s though, so it needs some updating, and this will really help spruce up the downtown.
The city had applied for a $2 million gaming grant on behalf of DHD Realty, a partnership between Neil and Paul D'Angelo and George Hayden of Hayden Electric. The project was ultimately awarded a $500,000 grant for the improvements. It's an event that draws people from near and far. Lisa Sugart has the details on the celebration this weekend at Eckley Miners Village.
It is a very well-known event that takes place at the Eckley Miners Village each and every year at this time, but this year it has a special twist. And here to tell us all about it is Bodie Moran, who is the site administrator at the Eckley Miners Village, and also Morgan Pierce. She is the education and volunteer coordinator. Bodie, I'm going to start with you. popular event. So many people come out each and every year, but this year you kind of mixed it up a little bit.
Yeah, this has been a great event. It's almost I would call it our signature event every year because we celebrate the Patch Town and the life of the people that live there, the lives of the people that live there. But we've been doing pretty much the same program for the last 15 years. And even though it's still very popular, we thought it's time to start looking at some new programming, some new ideas. So we decided to start celebrating the different ethnicities that came through the town. So for the first year, we picked the Slavic culture of Eastern Europe, and we're going to do a lot of great food, music, and other crafts and programs for the event.
That sounds like a really unique idea. So each and every year it'll be a little bit different. So Morgan, who's going to be there? What kind of great food in that are we going to find?
Oh, well, as far as food goes, we're going to have all the traditional things, halushki, pierogies, and then we're going to have some new and exciting things. There's going to be a kibasi burger featured, all kinds of things like that. As far as entertainment, we're going to have polka bands, Ukrainian dance groups, and then we're going to have different crafts available like Ukrainian paper cutting and Polish pottery painting.
Wow, that sounds really good. I love the halushki and the pierogies. They're everybody's favorite. What time is it taking place?
It's going to be 10 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. So this is a big event that's going on, but you've had a big event continuing for quite a few weeks over there and going into July, people digging, an archaeological dig.
Yes, this is the second year in a row for the University of Maryland Field School. So there's a group of archaeologists, students, PhD students, and even some local volunteers helping out, excavating some of the houses on Back Street. So this is the second year that they're out here, and they're looking at Back Street, which is the smallest houses and where some of the poorest people in Eckley lived. And it's a really great tool for us to get a look into the lives of the people that lived here, because we don't really have a lot of written records of the people that came to Eckley in the mid-19th century and early 20th century. So the excavation is going to be open to the public during Patchtown Days. It's open to the public every day. But the excavation will be open, and then the laboratory where they're actually processing the artifacts that come up from the dig will be open as well.
Very good. So you get a twofer there when you go over. You get the enjoyment of Slavic Fest at the Patchtown Days and also the archaeological dig. Again, it's all happening this Saturday and Sunday at the Eckley Miners Village, both days from 10 to 5. Please check it out. You will be so glad you did.
I love history. I may love kibasi more, so that burger sounds interesting. Thank you, Lisa. Coming up on FYI, we'll take you to the 2016 Penn State Hazleton High Acres Sports Hall of Fame ceremony. Find out why this year was so special. Up next, another FYI segment is going down in history. We'll read all about Hazleton in a well-known author's book.
This is FYI News 13, brought to you by SSPTV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker.
I'm pleased to welcome back Charles McElwee, a member of the Board of Directors for the Greater Hazleton Historical Society and Museum, and today focusing on a very well-known author, also with ties to our area.
Right, Lisa. John OHara, who is from Pottsville, really one of the great chroniclers of what American life was like in the early to mid-20th century. He was among the country's best short story writers and novelists during that time, really of the same stature of F. Scott Fitzgerald or Ernest Hemingway, and influenced by both when he wrote. He was born in 1905 in Pottsville, and most people remember him for his short stories that were in the New Yorker, and certainly his big novel debut in 1934, which was Appointment in Samara.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know that he also wrote about all the small towns, and I guess references to Hazleton as well.
Yes, Lisa. He most of his stories, he had stories written about Hollywood in the 20s and 30s. He wrote about New York, but he also wrote about Gibbsville, which was really Pottsville, and that hurt him long term in his community because many of the people he depicted were people he knew. And OHara had he was known for nursing a grudge, and he really captured the knack of the American dialogue, but he did reference Hazleton in Appointment in Samara, which is considered among the best novels of American literature. So in the novel, Julian English, the main character, which it's about really the downfall within a matter of 72 hours of the protagonist in Pottsville, and he is negotiating a drink deal with Al Greco, who is a mobster in Pottsville, and Julian says, just call me English, but he said, if we stick together, if we don't know what happens, those Hazleton people gain us, what was I talking about? He said, we have to stick together. And there are other references in his works. In the short story called The Assistant, a jazz singer, a boozing jazz singer from Hazleton, is in New York talking about her life. As she said, my grandfather, who was from Hazleton, was a lush, and my old man was a strict temperance man. But I take after my grandfather. He used to hold up a glass of whiskey in front of him and smile at it and say, my assistant. He always called it his assistant. So do I. But people don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I would do without my assistant, which obviously means her term for a drink. But there are other references to Hazleton in his work, and O'Hara did spend time here with friends growing up. He was really a product of his time, and really, if you want to understand what American life was like in a certain period, the best person to turn to was John O'Hara.
Another interesting story with coming back to Hazleton, the roots of a lot of things, a lot of people, and it's always interesting to find out. Charles is here every week to bring us some more exciting stories.
Time now for FYI News 13 weather.
Clouds ruled the day, but the sun will be back. Here's our forecast from the National Weather Service. Tonight will be partly cloudy, low of 54 degrees. Friday, we'll have some sprinkles after 9 a.m., high of 78. Friday night, mostly clear, low 57. Saturday, sunny, 79. Saturday night, mostly clear, 58 degrees. Sunday looks nice, high of 81. Sunday night, 60 degrees is the low. Monday, partly sunny, high of 82. And then Monday night, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, low of 62 degrees.
Tonight's weather is brought to you by Valley High, the area's oldest ice cream and fast food restaurant. Stop on in for a cold treat including our ice cream and yogurt, or some hot food including our burgers, hot dogs, fries, and much more. That's Valley High, Route 93 in West Hazleton. Treat yourself today.
Green screen midday Pennsylvania winning lottery numbers on FYI. Take a look as I tell you that in the Sportscast we'll tell you about two Penn State Hazleton greats who were honored for their achievements in the athletic department and on the court when we come back in sports. Right now, here's some law talk.
We received a viewer question, and the viewer asks, who handles the estate if there is no will?
Very legitimate question. It happens quite frequently. A lot of people that we see, they be middle-aged or even kind of like myself heading into the senior category, and they don't have a will. And of course we can't predict when we're going to die, so it's not unlikely for someone to die without a will. Well, what happens if you have property and that property's in your name and you haven't set forth in a will who you want to get that property? What happens to that property? How is it, in the eyes of the law, administered? Well, it's administered under the Pennsylvania Fiduciary and Estate Code. It's called intestate. Intestate means that you don't have a will. And the code also provides that someone, a family member, spouse, brother, sister, cousin, someone has to be appointed by the court to transition that property to where it belongs once you pass away. And that can only be done by what we call a citation. And that citation has to be brought to the Register of Wills. The person seeking to administer the estate has to ask the Register of Wills to appoint them as the administrator of the estate. And they have to give notice of that meeting with the Register of Wills to other relatives, creditors, who may have a right under the fiduciary code to be administered and administer the estate. More often than not, it's a relative. More often than not, nobody objects. But that is a step that is necessary when there is no will designating an executor. If there's an executor named in a will, it's much easier. You take the will up take the named executor, you get sworn in, and you start administering the estate from there. Without a will, you have to go through the citation process to have someone appointed, but effectively, once that's done, it's no different than having an executor in a will.
This is FYI News 13 Sports.
Can you believe I'm not in the Penn State Highacres Sports Hall of Fame? My flag football team made the intramural championship game in 2004, and despite my size, I was an above-average receiver. My disappointment aside, I totally understand why I didn't get in this year because two of the all-time greats were honored. Both inductees took their sports at the Hazleton campus to a whole other level. On top of that, they're people that make alumni like me proud to say I went to Penn State Hazleton. First up, we have Marty Mrzinski, the school's winningest softball coach with 2 Penn State University Athletic Conference championships to his name. The success speaks for itself, and that's good because Mrzinski was never one to boast. Back in 2014, I got a call from then Penn State Hazleton softball assistant coach Rich Lipinski. It was like Deep Throat calling Bob Woodward with information on Watergate. Lipinski told me that head coach Marty Mrzinski was sitting on 199 wins and he would probably get to number 200 that week. The information wasn't confidential, but Mrzinski probably wished it was. He was never one for the spotlight. In fact, Lipinski also had to call Mrzinski's family to let them know number 200 was on the horizon. When his family congratulated him on the accomplishment, Mrzinski told them that he didn't win the game, the players did, and that he's just there to guide them to success. He added that the win wasn't about him. Mrzinski didn't like the spotlight, but he would step in it briefly if it meant one of his girls would get recognition. Here's his longtime assistant and current Penn State Hazleton softball coach Rich Lipinski speaking at the Highacres Sports Hall of Fame ceremony.
When I was asked to present this honor tonight, my first thoughts went to Marty's feelings on these kind of events. Of all his coaching duties, this was his least favorite. Most of you knew Marty, knew he wasn't very flashy or self-promoting. Public speaking just wasn't his thing. For 14 years, dating back to our days at Bishop Hayfie, he would threaten to call in sick and make me give the speeches. However, a few years ago, when suffering from kidney stones, he showed up at the banquet, and even though he was thoroughly uncomfortable, he stood up here and made his speech. For he knew that nights like this are important. They are important to mark the special moments to provide celebration and closure.
The entire 2016 softball season was about closure, and not just for the local Lions, but for everyone Mrzinski had an impact on, and that included the competition.
First game this season, we played St. Mary of the Woods, a school from Indiana, who we played in Florida and Nationals for the past few seasons. Their coach and players called our team to home plate to honor Marty and gave the team a gift and a card in his memory. Our last game in Florida, our greatest rival over Marty's tenure, Penn State Beaver, came to play at the complex we were at. Their entire coaching staff sought us out and asked if our team needed anything from them. When we arrived home and our first game was against Summit University, their coach, Bill Higley, asked if he could meet in the middle of the field before the game, where with a tear in his eyes, he led us in a prayer for Marty. A week ago at Mount Alto, we quietly and without fanfare found out their players had been wearing Marty's initials all season. On Monday, while exchanging lineup cards, the umpire asked the other umpire, the University of Scranton coach, and myself, for a moment of silence to honor Marty. And he looked at the sky and said, "This game is for you, Coach." These events occurred over and over again in parking lots and dugouts almost every game this season. When the mark you made is known that far and wide, the honor we present tonight is a punctuation mark on a game well coached and a life well lived.
Mrzinski will forever be remembered at Penn State Hazleton and all around the state as the Penn State University Athletic Conference named their Softball Coach of the Year award after him. Maybe Mrzinski wouldn't have enjoyed all that, but he would have loved this. The 2016 Penn State Hazleton softball team made it to the PSUAC championship game and finished 5th at the National United States Collegiate Athletic Association tournament. His daughter Megan also spoke at the Hall of Fame ceremony.
We do believe he was with each and every girl during all of their games as their angel in the outfield this year. I am certain that he's proud of all of the players for yet another great softball season. In closing, we can only ask that you continue his legacy here at Penn State Hazleton. As we are Penn State, we miss him dearly. Thank you.
You can bet Mrzinski's family aren't the only ones who believe Marty was there in some way in 2016, doing what he does best, quietly guiding his players to success. Mrzinski passed away suddenly before the 2016 season. Now, along with Mrzinski, PSU Hazleton class of 2016 member Alexis Daly was also inducted into the Hall of Fame. She was a four-time USCAA All-American, two-time PSU AC Player of the Year, and this year she was named USCAA National Player of the Year. Daly capped off her career with over 1,000 points and over 1,000 rebounds.
Major thing, I would like to thank my team. They're the reason that I am able to be up here and do this. The reason I got all these awards, they've helped me. Also my coach, even though I had him for 1 year, it's been the best year. It's by far the best year that I've had here at Penn State Hazleton. Thank you.
Daly was talking about Penn State Hazleton head coach Paul Appel, who guided the local Lady Lions to the PSUAC championship game this past season. Two quick scores for you. The Rail Riders beat Toledo, and they are rolling. The Cubs, they lost to the Cardinals. They're in a bit of a slump right now. We've reached the end of sports. Next up, it's a social report. We'll be right back. Thursday is $1 burger night at Bottlenecks. Get a juicy 4th pound burger for only $1 all night long.
Good evening, everyone, and here's tonight's Talk of the Town report. First tonight, the Tamaqua Community Arts Center will be holding an event to make and design your own trivets on Saturday, July 9th. Be held from 9 to 11:30 a.m. The cost is $30 per person and includes all materials. For more info, just call 570-668-1192. And one more quick announcement, tickets are still available for the Shenandoah Sesquicentennial Dinner Dance, be held from 6 to 11 p.m. June 25th at the Columbia Hose Company. Please buy tickets at the headquarters of the Revitalization Group, downtown Shenandoah Incorporated. For info, just call 570-462-2060. That's tonight's Talk of the Town. News 13 would like to send sincere condolences to the family and friends of these recently departed. Annetta Margaret Pataki, formerly of Palmerton. Funeral is Monday at 10:30 a.m. from the Frank J. Bonin Funeral Home. Friends may call Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m. Nora M. Minnick of Cunningham. Funeral service is Saturday at 10 a.m. from the Rosenstock Funeral Home. Andrea L. Cervasio of Hazel Township. Funeral arrangements will be announced by the Joseph A. Moran Funeral Home. The Reverend Dorothy Buckery of Hazleton. Service is Saturday at 1 p.m. from the Hazel Chapel of the Crofton Hughes Funeral Home. Friends may call Saturday from noon to 1 p.m. Dorothy H. Bowen of Hazleton. Funeral is Saturday at 10 a.m. from the Holy Rosary Church. Arrangements are under the direction of the Frank J. Bonin Funeral Home. Dolores Lily Sagilia of Hazleton Heights. Funeral is Saturday at 9:30 a.m. from the Fierro Funeral Home. Friends may call Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. And Joseph P. David of McAdoo. Graveside service is Friday at 10 a.m. in the Immaculate Conception Cemetery. The Stanley E. Anilowski Funeral Home is assisting the family.
When a soccer referee becomes the story after a game, it's usually not a good thing. During a game over in Sweden, a player who already had one yellow card passed gas. The referee gave him his second yellow card and sent him off. The player asked the ref if he wasn't allowed to break wind, and the referee said no. The referee says he thought the player did it on purpose and that it was inappropriate. This information comes to us from Yahoo Sports. And that's how we end our time together tonight. We'll see you again on Friday. Take it easy, everyone.